Well, here we are. Race Relations with Joe and Ed. You're stuck with Joe today. Ed's got a bunch of other stuff going on, and today we've got JP with us today.
What up, though, world?
JP. This conversation is probably gonna be a little short. It's gonna get a little deep. JP is huge on history, so as we start getting this conversation, he's probably gonna roll the mic a long time. JP, tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's up, world? JP Morgan, like the bank, without the money. Not the dead white billionaire, the young ambitious Negro. What up, world? What up, Facebook? Wherever else this may get broadcast.
JP's the kind of guy who we met a little while back through Facebook, through actually one of the pages, one of the car pages, one of the childish car pages we're on.
The Woodward.
And it's the Woodward group. And, we kind of built a relationship from there. And now that I have this going on, he was pretty interested in, kind of talking with us. And I'm sure he'll be around fairly often because he's got massive knowledge and huge empathy toward everything that's going on with race today. I'll just hit him with kind of like a quick one real quick. What do you think is the biggest thing that's dividing our country from just the black and white race?
The biggest thing that's dividing America between blacks and whites is the definition. When you have two people that are categorized as the polar opposite of each other, it'll always be an eternal duality. It'll always be conflict. When I hear, it's a post-racial society, there's no such thing as a post-racial society in any world. For there to be a post-racial society, you would have to basically erase everyone's history to have a post-racial society. There would be no such thing as any type of pride. To have a post-racial society, you would have to get rid of everything that was cultural. You would have to get rid of tons of holidays. You would have to erase tons of cultural icons and names of sports teams, names of organizations, names of schools, all type of stuff you would have to eradicate if you want to have a post-racial society. If anything, I think we should have an honest racial society. But again, when you categorize two prominent groups of people as the polar opposite of each other, there's no such thing as post-racial,
Well, the biggest feeling I have is what you just said. When they're labeled as polar opposites, there's going to be division.
It's going to be a duality, a continuous duality.
So from there, I guess it goes to the only way we could try to grow this together is to do it in increments. There's no jumping right in, right?
You can jump right in, but again, you got to come into it. When you seek to have serious racial dialogue, you have to have a commitment to cohesion to begin with. If you don't have a commitment to cohesion and understanding and peace, don't even do it. Don't even attempt to engage in it, because it's going to go sideways, because people are going to put their prejudices above trying to seek understanding.
So basically, people go through, instead of the empathy of learning and understanding what somebody else lives with, they spend the whole time with their prejudice and what they know and what they've always known.
Absolutely. And that's most people. One of the most difficult things to do is put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Of course.
Because that requires taking a serious objective look at everything.
Why would people want to object when they can take an objective look when they can just judge? It's too easy.
It's easier, right.
Lazy.
Judgment, criticism, ridicule, and animus is the point of least resistance. That's the easy thing to do, because everybody's doing it.
That's it. That's right.
It's difficult, like we spoke earlier before we recorded. I mentioned one of the most gangster things you can do is make a commitment to live in peace. You know what I mean? Because when you do that, you have to take a responsibility in controlling your emotions and being emotionally disciplined. That generally only comes when you understand, one, who you are, one, who everybody else is, and you look at the totality of history, not just where you are today and how you feel today and what may be going on in your personal world, because a lot of the issues that may be going on in your personal world that you feel are social constructs may be just your own life, and you either not achieving the goals that you want to achieve, and or you just fucking up and attributing that solely to, you know, whatever racial and social obstacles that have been put in your way.
So you think a lot of this comes back to your self-confidence? I guess we talked about fractured egos, people who lack self-confidence in themselves, so they look for any kind of gap or anything where they can attack somebody else to help soothe their shortcomings?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. As we spoke of earlier, a lot of people's pride, self-esteem, and self-awareness comes with their cultural view of themselves. For example, you take a Jewish boy that is turning 13. He has his bar mitzvah, which is a party where he learns the laws, the Levitical laws, according to the Torah and Talmud. The Torah, ironically, being an African construct, Tuah means to adorn. Ra was god of Upper Egypt, which is southern Egypt or southern Kemet, which was the name of Egypt before the Greeks took the helm. I was talking about the Jewish boys. So anyway, when they had a bar mitzvah, they learn about their cultural past and the patriarchs from their bloodline or whatever. Your Abraham, Isaac, Job, Lot, David, Jacob, Joseph, Solomon, all those guys. And when you look at who they were in terms of historical perspective, church people would generally say that, you know, these were men that God handpicked to, you know, carry out their laws. The reality is these were very wealthy men, billionaires by today's standards. And the harsh reality is that most of these men were actually pharaohs from the 12th through 17th dynasty. But nonetheless, these boys learn that they come from a lineage of great men, of great powerful men, of very wealthy men. Okay, so they have their cultural pride and awareness intact. And then their community, the members of their synagogue or their communities, their families, they come through and they give that boy that money. You know, they give that boy those white envelopes. And, you know, on average, that boy can have enough money from his bar mitzvah to fund either, you know, his college tuition or to start whatever business or endeavor he wants to pursue. And then the men of that community are going to support him and make sure he's got the resources and access to capital that he needs. But ultimately, it is a source of pride, a source of cultural pride. To me, it's a recipe for success. Now, going the other side of the tracks, to the black community, when our boys turn 13, what do we tell them?
Be a man.
No, we throw out this low expectation shit, like, hey, don't be down the street with them niggas. You know them niggas down there. No. Or, you know, don't come home with no babies. I ain't ready to be no grandparent. I mean, we don't tell them anything. We don't provide them with any information,
so you're not
and historic information about themselves.
You're not culturally educating them to grow as men? You just spend more time telling them what not to do than educating them on what to do? Basically,
I mean, we generally, like, you know, myself again, and I've come from two college graduate household, but still, as an adolescent, you know, I was told of the pitfalls of, you know, society and, you know, the police out to get you in the whole nine.
But then that puts a whole lot of pressure on only negativity. There's no positivity in those talks.
Well, the positivity, like in particular in my household, the positivity was, you know, you come from a good lineage, and we expect the best from you.
Okay.
in every aspect of life. You know, my parents were like, you know, we worked too hard to build up a good name for you to go out here in the street and destroy it. So even to this day, you know, I honor my folks, and therefore my movements and actions in the street are reflective of what I was taught and what was instilled in me. But when you don't know who you are, and you've been told who you are by society and dictated who you are by society, by the dominant society, you know, you're gonna be confused. I've had this cliche, which I shared with you earlier. The man who owns nothing but his pride is the most dangerous animal on the planet. For when his pride is damaged, he'll kill you to preserve it. Now, when you don't belong to a strong family, a family of any substance, you don't belong to an organization, organizations, religion, you know, groups of substance that you can take pride and ownership in. When you don't have that, that's a dangerous thing, because again, a lot of your pride, for a lot of young black men, a lot of our young boys' pride is based on their willingness to kill, you know, and their willingness to be gangster, because we've been taught so much negative information about ourselves. We feel that that's the identity of manhood, being gangster or having a gun or be willing to kill, because so much we feel has been taken from us. And even in the household, another theme we touched on earlier was the family. I'm a proponent of the family, the nuclear family. I feel that the family is the most valuable asset of any society, community, neighborhood, city, municipality. The family is the asset, right? When you have a nuclear family and they have a certain set of morals and values, and they instill that in their children, and then you have the family next door with that same set of morals and values that instill in their children, and 2 doors down you have the same set of morals and values, you have common unity. You put common unity together and you got the word community. That's how you build strong communities. I know this isn't a popular position to take, because you have a lot of people who say, oh, single women can do it, single women. But you generally don't have thriving, prosperous communities where you have
single parents,
predominantly single parent homes. It just mathematically does not work. You know, when you look at particularly the Arab or Chaldean community, the Asian community, the Greek community, the Jewish community, family is everything. And family is how they build their empires and their fortunes. When they have a business, because they have a family structure and a hierarchy, there's discipline there. Therefore, you can have the whole family be a part of whatever business or whatever endeavor the patriarchs and matriarchs have going on, and everybody falls in line and plays their role.
So it pushes a lot of their family wealth and a lot of their really the family love, because everyone's working together for one common goal.
Absolutely, it's family wealth. It's generational inheritance. You got your cultural pride, your values, everything is intact. But when you get to the black community, because our existence in America basically starts with the boat ride forward, so in no state-sponsored institution of education do we get the knowledge of us prior to the boat ride over here. Everything we deal with post-boat ride is basically dealing with or trying to overcome oppression. Our identity over here, because we aren't generally taught or raised knowing any of our historical past prior to slavery, everything we know about ourselves is dealing with oppression. Okay?
So the boat ride was a reset button on your history here.
The boat ride was a complete reset button. And it was a reset button into the abyss, because they knew, okay, we can't let these people read, because if they would read, then they would learn, and they would be able to identify themselves how they want to if they could read. So that's why it was a priority. Don't let these people read. Don't let them learn. We can't do anything to let them get on the level of the white. So anything petty to keep them a notch 2, 3 below, we're gonna institute that, and make it a priority. I always had this cliche: if you beat a slave long enough, eventually you won't have to do it. He'll pick up the whip and crack himself.
Probably some truth in that for sure.
A lot, a whole lot of truth. But you have this climate now in America where America has to reckon with its past, through the aid of, the current technologies that we have. Everything done in the dark is coming to the light. Not just historical truths, but you also got all these scandals about,
that's right.
Men pulling their dicks out at the job, and sexual harassment and all this kind of stuff.
It's not hidden by the people who run it anymore. Social media can push it out there easily.
Nothing is protected anymore. Everything is subject to exposure and judgment and ridicule.
Because someone's got a picture of it somewhere.
Somebody has a picture of it somewhere.
Remember that, kids. Everything you do from now on forever, it's out there.
And stop going live. Stop going live. You go live and a murder happens in the background, you're an accessory to that murder. So, not anybody plans on murdering anybody. You didn't hear that from me.
I'm not editing that out though.
Hey, I'm guilty of nothing but being black.
That's it.
I'm very guilty of that.
And you notice we drove around Livonia. Right around it. Didn't go through it. That's a whole nother conversation.
And I am pro-black. Make no mistake about it. I am black as 1,000 midnights. Don't get it twisted. But, newsflash, pro-black does not mean anti-white at all.
That's why we're friends.
In no way, shape, or form does pro-black mean anti-white. Black power and white power do not mean the same thing. They do not.
No, thanks, Clan. Appreciate it.
Right.
You guys did a big justice there for us white folk.
They are not the same thing.
All right. So, in your opinion, you know where we are. Obviously, I have to have him back on here because this is the tip of the iceberg with the amount of knowledge this guy has. Yeah. But for right here, right now, what do you feel we should do from here on either side? Because there shouldn't be two sides, but since there is two sides because of how it's been labeled over the years, obviously we need to find some happy ground somewhere.
Yeah.
What do you believe is the most efficient way to, other than, I tell people all the time, just sit down and have a conversation. If you're white and you're uncomfortable around black people, just sit down and have a conversation with one.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be amazed how much you guys are the same.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's the most powerful thing you can do. But do you have any other ideas other than that? Because I think that's the most powerful thing, because people have a real good understanding after about an hour conversation over a couple beers on what's going on,
Well, for black people, who a lot of us are prejudiced as well. Some prejudices are valid. Some justified. Some prejudices are not. What I try to do is, whenever I'm speaking of a particular point in history where there was a transgression, a direct transgression against my people, or Africans, or African Americans, or Negroes, or niggers, whatever you want to call it, I try to put history in the proper context. And when I'm discussing history, I don't make vague and sweeping generalizations. I generally say, okay, if something happened in history, I direct it at a particular individual, a particular time, a particular monarchy or whatever, or who initiated whatever that transgression was. I like to be very specific because people, take things personal. Like if I was to say, man, white folks do this, that, and the third. So now Joe, who is my friend, is offended because I put him in this category of characteristics and behavior that he's never possessed. So you have to be very specific when you talk about history or racial issues. You got to be very, very specific and detailed what you're talking about, as to not unwarrantedly offend the people who you may wish to communicate with. You and I have talked about some really serious, heavy racial issues.
Yep.
And just today alone.
Yes.
And you haven't been offended at all, have you?
No, sir.
Okay.
Well, my thing is also I have empathy. But I also trust you, and I trust your mind and your soul. I mean, the reason that we became friends is because it has nothing to do with obviously the color of our skin.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with the power and the love in your soul and heart. And that's why we became friends. We became friends because I know what you're about, and I understand what you're about, and I also have empathy with what you go through and who you are on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand how I am towards you.
Right.
And that's why we are very close friends. We don't get together all that often because we got lives to live, but that's why our relationship is so strong, is because I have an understanding of what he lives with and what he goes through every day, and I love him even more because of it, because of the strength he possesses to deal with it and be good in the meantime.
And on my birthday, which was last year, was a very torrentially rainy day.
Yep.
And you and Diane were one of the few people that came out to my birthday party to celebrate with me. So I'm eternally grateful for that, man. I appreciate you guys.
Yep.
I love you guys for that.
And every birthday party from here on out, if the invite shows up, we'll be there.
Absolutely.
So, all right, I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to go ahead and get this loaded up. But here, JP, say peace. You will see a lot of him.
Make sure you put this on Woodward because they need to see this. And if it's not car related, we're in a C63 AMG, so now it's car related.
Oh, yep, C63 AMG. That's the basically the Uber whip today.
that's the studio we're in today.
Studio, Mercedes-Benz. Peace.